it exists right now, I would say feminism is for white women and girls. You'll see white feminism in the movies, in the newspaper, in the capitalist system, in the wars that may affect your region. And it's in the conversations that you are invited to be a part of and the conversations that you are excluded from. My experience with white feminism has been that I always have to file my edges, explain my stories. I feel that if I talk about the fact that I was a single mother, the fact that I had a divorce, the fact that I lived in a shelter, a ton of things are automatically assumed about me. Structurally, we make it impossible for that Black or brown or Asian woman to make any real changes. Within the feminist context, we have to make feminism political again. 58% of all women living in poverty are women of color. The world that Black and brown women inhabit is a completely different world from the world that white women inhabit. When I sat down to write this book, I wanted people to see that white supremacy within feminism, within the women's movement, is not just a problem within the United States, but is then exported all over the world. The war on terror was the first feminist war. And this has been talked about, but it hasn't been talked about in terms of what it did with the image of the white woman. I'm imagining Jessica Chastain in Zero Dark 30.
But Bin Laden is there, and you're gonna kill him for me.
It's really being sort of pushed as this sort of protector of all humankind because she's gonna go get the terrorist, and she's so brave that she'll even participate in torture.
You don't think she's a little young for the hard stuff?
Washington says she's a killer.
On a larger level, it is this weaponization of the white woman as simultaneously taking feminism, as a gift to Afghan women or to Iraqi women or Somali women or Pakistani women. Secure feminism is a term that was coined by Professor Laila Abulagod. The term essentially revolves around how these military war on terror interests of the United States and other Western powers came to coalesce with the larger transnational feminist project of freeing women from their oppressive cultures.
I'm Laura Bush, and I'm delivering this week's radio address to kick off a worldwide effort to focus on the brutality against women and children by the Al-Qaeda terrorist network and the regime it supports in Afghanistan, the Taliban.
In the United States, you actually had feminist organizations like Feminist Majority who supported and hailed the Bush administration for going into Afghanistan. You have the morphing of this white feminist industrial complex into a military project, where allegedly you're going out, and you're going to make the world feminist. The secure feminist has become a figure that is dreaded by women in other countries. Another place where you see the impact of white feminism is within the conflation of sexual empowerment or sexual freedom as the sum total of empowerment and of freedom. If you can produce a carry in Nigeria or in India, then you're empowered, because that's what the goals of an empowered woman are supposed to be. The word empowerment was introduced into the feminist lexicon by this collective that was out of India, represented by Geeta Sen. The whole premise behind using the term empowerment was to identify the women's struggle as an essentially political struggle that works against all institutions, all patriarchal institutions. It's almost like if I put empowerment as like a concentrate in a glass, it's like more and more water poured upon it so that it increasingly has lost its flavor. The sort of compartmentalization of empowerment happened where you just kind of packaged it up as a buzzword. Its meaning has been diluted. The idea that it is a political struggle has completely been lost.
Do not lean back, lean in.
The girl boss feminism is, in my opinion, not a feminist at all. She's out for herself. She's gonna lean in. She'll do whatever it takes. It essentially says, look out for yourself. Where your ambition is concerned,
you have the talent. Whether you have the killer instinct is the big question.
It doesn't look at the ruin and the detritus that is left behind, all these individual decisions of all these individual women trying to climb a ladder that men have constructed. It is an absolute death blow to feminism as a political project and as a collective project. The question becomes, what needs to happen for some of these changes to be initiated? One is that older white women, who have kind of defined the story of the feminist movement by and large, will have to cede some space. It's just a recognition of the fact that everybody needs to be included in the conversation. You do not have to be white to be a white feminist. And the fact that you are white and feminist does not automatically make you a white feminist. It's important to distinguish essentially between whiteness and feminism. We have to put the politics back in this. When we are creating these conversations of parity, it's not just that I recognize you, it's that the state and other institutions have to be structured such that they embody the redistributive agenda of feminism.
So I came across this article that was written in 2020 by someone named Enes Rivera. Probably messing up the name. Forgive me for that. But I thought it was a pretty good article and sums up a lot of what's been happening. A lot of things I thought of even back then. But of course, I didn't write anything when the iron was hot, and Rivera did. Right, so I'm going to read this article for you about how liberals weaponize feminism. So it starts off like this. Feminism, as well as phrases and terms asserted with it, has become a commodity for liberal women, especially white women. Feminism is an ideology and a theoretical framework to understand and encourage political social action. However, feminism is also used to justify and shame women who did not enthusiastically supported Hillary Clinton, and I remember that vividly. It is not the responsibility of women to uphold a blind loyalty to other women who perpetuated classism, racism, and other unjust structures. There cannot be sisterhood without crucial class and racial analysis, which recognize the way in which women are complicit or even play an active role in subjugating other women. Feminism is now more mainstream and distorted, manipulated and rendered, which means it has been diluted, melted in order to separate out its impurities. Purity has been gone, not only in feminism, and so many black men and black women love to marry outside of their race because they want to get babies with certain type of hair, certain type of complexion, as you see many dark-skinned people bleaching out the skin and so forth. Right? It's a lot of self-hate, right, that still exists in the mind, damaged mind. Okay? Mainstream feminism maintains that it is men in positions of power that oppress women. But one cannot stop the feminization of poverty or the oppression of working class women by replacing male CEOs with female CEOs. One cannot stop the feminization of poverty or the oppression of working class women by replacing male CEOs with female CEOs. Replacing male positions with women does not necessarily dismantle the patriarchy. Women are able to reproduce the same misogynistic mentality and actions. It is also not enough to have women in position of power. These women need to acknowledge the ways in which capitalism feeds racism. Under the name of feminism, white women of economic and educational privilege have used their privilege at the expense of third world women. This current political moment showcases how the word feminism greatly loses its power when used by people who continue to benefit from the status quo reinforced by oppressive structures. Anything liberal feminists dislike is characterized as masculine within the current political framework. There is a discomfort among women, particularly white women, with notions of imperialism, colonialism, racism, and capitalism, and how women perpetuate those structures. Labeling these structures as a result of messy and impulsive actions of toxic male leaders allows women to absolve themselves of blame and not recognize themselves as beneficiaries of oppressive structures. Women are portrayed as more empathetic, thus they would be better world leaders. To many feminists, the patriarchy and lack of gender diversity in the government is a reason there is injustice in the world. If women run the world, they say, there would be no war. This mentality blinds us to the ways in which women are also complicit in the structures we want to end. In this current election cycle, it allows women to be questioned and shamed for not supporting female candidates, even when they are not making the same commitments to dismantle capitalism and imperialism as their male counterparts. And when it says this election period, it is talking about the election period between Trump and Hillary Clinton. Discussions of women's liberation cannot exist only within the realm of gender, but a deeper analysis into how race, class, sexuality, age, citizenship status, and more intersection can shape the lives of women. Would this not benefit women, especially women of color? Is that not inherently feminist? It also shows true care and concern about all women, not just the superficial level. It is impressive how white women working with their white men were able to convince other women or so-called women of color and everyone to take on their battle and able to use them as leverage and to have access to every part of the world where they can push business and get their thing going. And it just blows my mind how these type of things repeat themselves over and over and over. Honestly, I just gotta respect it. They are clever. They are clever in what they do. And we keep falling for it every time, and I really can't get upset at them. But if they see a jackass, they ride it. If they see a jackass, they ride it. Some of us are acting like that, you know? Not all of us, because some of us do push back. Some of us call that out, but for some reason, even if it's a smaller number, even if it's the minority, they get the power, they get money, they get sponsored by the folks with money, and they end up having a greater voice. And these people are too blind to see what some of us are talking about. So they're going on, have fun, worshiping, have fun, shaking hands, and talking all this stuff about multiculturalism and all this thing, holding hands, not realizing that they are celebrating their replacement. not looking at the communities outside of them. And that is why people need to travel, right? For someone like me who's looking at it, I would believe at a broader picture and not just looking at one country. I'm not just looking at Barbados or Grenada, Jamaica, Antigua, so forth. I am looking at Africa, all of Africa. I'm looking at all of the Pacific Islands. I'm looking at all these places where so-called minority people live. And I see who run things in those countries. I see who call the shots in those countries. I see the ones partying, and I see the ones sponsoring those parties. I see it all, just sitting back and seeing it. And then, you know, folks like us with little voice speak up, and whoever hears gonna hear. And we don't only talk, but we're gonna do our part, work with whoever are willing, so that we can eventually have some type of impact on what is happening. And also understanding that it's going to take generation, because the situation that we're in today did not happen overnight. And also realizing that politicians need help. They're in a position where they're going up against freaking elephant. They're going up against monsters. They're going up against devils. They're going up against powerful forces. Right? So when the people keep begging them, we're not trying to put ourselves together to help them, then we are also partakers in our demise. But anyway, that's all I have for now. Until next time, be blessed.